I think it definitely helps to broaden, as much as I just mentioned how well read some of them are in certain areas, and at the same time, you know, we were talking about some historical things where they never knew, and in fact it was both eye-opening and in some ways frustrating that they never learned about it before, in terms of Asian American history and discrimination and things, and then once learning about it, even almost being angry that that it happened, certain events happened, discrimination laws and what have you, and the fact that they didn't even learn about it. And I think this goes in line with that notion that while we journey together in many ways, and we're not teachers telling them, at the same time we've been down this road before and we've learned some of these things before, and part of that, if as adults, as young adults, some of the history of the Asian American experience they have not learned till now. Had we not done this, then where?
That how there's a pattern, and there's a resource on the table that shows how,
as we hear each other's stories, and as you tell your own story, it's kind of an empowering, exercise.
I tend to talk about a lot of these issues a lot, things like race, and especially in what our situation as Asian Americans are in this sort of racial hierarchy that we call America. And so I think for me, it's been interesting processing through that, because in this setting, it's such an open, thing, and that it really gives you the space to be able to, in a lot of ways, speak your mind. And me being around other Asians who kind of grew up in very similar backgrounds as I did, but at the same time, somewhere along the line had a point where, in a lot of ways, a lot of the Asians here, they kind of have departed, I think. I don't want to say depart, that sounds too conclusive, but have in a lot of ways kind of taken a step outside of that Asian bubble. And so it's been cool to see so many different people talk about their own racialized experiences in different ways, and especially with an honesty and an openness that even I myself, I could really read my own experiences into that, and see how, in a lot of ways, we're also interconnected together.
Working for Taiwanese organizations to lobby and program planning, consulting, kind of saying that because it's more like financial.
What I see in a place like Trinity is I see this combination of education, this valuing of education and theological discipline and spirituality and worship and community that comes together in this really powerful way. We just saw that video on kind of the beginnings of civil rights and of social action around segregation and desegregation, and to watch this African American community worship, and that their social action was so connected to their spirituality, so connected to what they were doing in the church. It was as if their protest was an extension of who they were in the pews. That kind of model I think should inspire us. Not just Asian Americans, it should inspire all of us, but especially for those of us who have experienced race and the harmful effects of racism in this country.
Many African American churches lost membership as people got active in the civil rights movement and other areas of social change and reform.
The whole idea of having this Advent program is to nurture Asian American leadership. And there isn't a case, I mean, there's a lot of seminary, experiences or whatever, but to deal with really the Asian American identity and then putting that all together with the potential of seminary, but maybe not, and just helping the participants come, explore their identity, and then as we help them, or hopefully help them, and nurture them into becoming leaders of the church, the Asian American, in the Asian American context, or maybe not, but anyway, in how they go out and do ministry in their particular ways. I think it's important to have a place where that's valued and nurtured.
Being blessed and being able to be a part of the community here and seeing how every individual worships God, because it was so different and there was so much variety in how people thought about God, how people felt about God, how people worshiped God, and how people best related to God. That was interesting to me. And each and every single person I speak to very uniquely and very differently. And it's a reflection of the fact that God created us each to be individuals and unique in our own right.
And then in small groups, that's been a whole nother experience that's been so different from everything else we've been doing. It's been like a breath of fresh air for me, at the end of the day. And I was in Dee's group, and he had us doing art and singing and confiding in each other, the things that were our moments of highest elation and our moments of most pain during the day, or processing those things for myself, and then hearing from other people what processes they're going through here have been so richly and instructive for me. And I'm really kind of overwhelmed by how complex and textured this experience has been, and the site visits, of course.
The experience at the Gurdwara is that it is so firmly set in their communities. They are Indian, they are Sikh, they practice their faith and tradition, and they care for one another. And so the context is so important to them. And I want all of us to really take our own context seriously and think about what it means to be Asian and American and Christian and in our own context. And so using the experience at the Gurdwara as a reflection item, as a way to reflect on our own experiences of, so what does it mean for me to practice my faith so fervently, so much with joy, and so much with a sense of openness and inclusion. I would hope that that's one of the things that we learn from.
Politicians and government workers were not moved one ethnic group has ever been defined by scientists as inferior, move one space back.
Process of taking everything in that is
I think going to that Korean American community service site was really eye-opening for me because I've never seen Korean Americans work outside of their own people, like whether it be Koreans or Korean Americans, you know. And so this group was helping their community, and 70% of the people, their clients, were Latino Americans or Latinos. So I think that's really, in terms of justice, I think that's something that I want to focus more on. Not losing my Asian American identity in the American culture or in the American identity, but and at the same time not just being ethnocentric and sticking to my own Korean American or Asian American identity, but working alongside other minority groups, as well as working alongside anyone, really, you know. But at the same time, maintaining like who you are.
Well, I think one of the importances of it is, you know, developing the relationships that will, you know, continue on from here. You know, at the closing ceremony, just seeing the interchange between Roger and Mary, you know, that creating these kinds of spaces and opportunities leads to lives being transformed. And if we're ever going to see transformation in the church and the world, besides just individual lives, I mean, we have to keep having these things to keep building those relationships in the communities. You know, community organizing beyond just a physical community location.
Wesley, thank you for all your dedication, your leadership. May God bless you in your journey.
I tend to think that you'll have these conversations in your lives, you'll have these experiences in life where once you decide to make a decision in a certain direction that you're never going to be able to go back. And knowledge is like that. And I hope that there's going to be moments for the participants where they have those kind of moments, where they learn something about themselves as an Asian American. They learn something about themselves as a critical thinking, theological being that resonates with them in such a way that they feel like they can never go back. If that happens, then I think we've accomplished something.
I'm pretty sure that everybody here can walk away feeling like a more whole, dignified person that understands their own pain, their own experience, and understands other people's more, can so stand in solidarity with a lot more people.
I realized that my past, it doesn't control my destiny or where I go, because that's where God kind of wants to use as his canvas for me.